So we've talked about databases that use tables or relational databases. Let's explore the other main category of databases, which is NoSQL or non-relational. Go ahead and watch this video on Amazon DynamoDB, which is one of those NoSQL or non-relational service solutions that AWS has to offer. All right, once you're finished that video, let's go and define a few terms. So non-relational databases, they don't use that SQL language because that's only for the table based databases or the SQL or relational. Because they don't use SQL, we call them NoSQL or non-relational. So it's a database that stores and manages data in formats other than traditional tables, offering flexible schemas. Schemas how you kind of shape the data. So in a table, they're shaped in rows and columns. In NoSQL, it's going to use a variety of different ways to organize the data. It's still going to remain highly scalable though, right? Because we're running it on the cloud. So NoSQL, because it's not using the SQL language. One way that NoSQL DBs organize data is with key value pairs. So one of the services we mentioned already, DynamoDB, actually uses that format. This is not the only format that NoSQL databases use. There's a lot of different types out there. This is really just one. So NoSQL is that broad category that doesn't use tables. So in databases, when we talk about them, it's the ones that use tables and the ones that don't. And in that NoSQL category, the ones that don't use tables, there's going to be a lot of subcategories, a lot of different ways they'll do it. We're going to focus on just a few. We'll make a mention of some other ones, but we won't take a super deep dive. Remember, outside the scope of this class, we're just covering a lot of high level things. So with key value pairs, data is organized into keys, which are the items, and then those items have values, which we call attributes. So think of the attributes as being the different features of your data. So for example, in a table-based database, in a SQL database, the attributes would be the columns. The columns of the database are the attributes. Attributes are the features or characteristics, right, of each coffee. So this is the name of the coffee, the size, the price. I can see if it's expensive. I can see, what kind of coffee it is. So those are the attributes. With NoSQL databases, they're not going to organize it into tables. Here's what it might look like in a non-relational database. So for example, we might have a key, right, similar to the unique ID. And then rather than mapping it into rows and columns, it's just going to map out into like this object format. If you've ever seen JSON kind of looks like this. JavaScript object notation. Here we have the key, and then it's mapped onto multiple values. We use that word map a lot in computing. So name, address, and favorite drink. And notice because NoSQL is more flexible than the table format, these attributes don't have to be the same. So for example, this one has favorite drink, this one has favorite food. So if your data maybe has this not such a strict structure, maybe you might want to go with a NoSQL database. Though technically it doesn't really matter which one you use. They both can do the same thing, but of course, right, depending on your specific data needs, one might serve you better than the other. So when we're talking about NoSQL database services in AWS, we must discuss Amazon DynamoDB. So again, all the great features of AWS cloud services in terms of storage, high availability, scalability, and performance, single digit millisecond performance at any scale. So it doesn't matter how big it is, you're going to be able to retrieve things from that DB very, very fast. Again, this is under that serverless category. Remember, not the best name because servers are still involved. Of course, the servers are managed by your cloud service provider, in this case, AWS. But yeah, this is a serverless service because you don't have to do any of the management, none of the provisioning, none of the updates, patching, right? Anything involving managing infrastructure, AWS will handle for you. So you don't have to install, maintain, or for example, operate the software. It auto scales. So as the size of your database shrinks or grows, DynamoDB will automatically scale to adjust to your capacity needs. And then it's great for cases where you still need that high performance while still, scaling to pretty much any size you want. Let's go and watch this video comparing RDS and Amazon DynamoDB. Remember, RDS is relational. It's that table format. DynamoDB, it's throwing the table out the window and kind of doing its own thing. in this case, key value pairs. So let's go ahead and continue. Our next topic, we're going to cover Amazon Redshift, so a specialized database service.